Ancient alien water beings, known as Nummo, first came here after their world had been destroyed. The Dogon people of Mali, Africa focused their entire religious beliefs on these immortal aliens, first described to the French anthropologist Marcel Griaule beginning in 1931. The information collected by Griaule is the first documented evidence we have of alien-human contact. The immortal alien Nummo lived amongst the Dogon people for some time and taught them about astrophysics and genetics, things that form the basis of their religion and were impossible for the French anthropologist Marcel Griaule to understand in the 30s and 40s. DNA, which plays an important role in the religion, wasn't discovered until the 1950s. Griaule is shown here in the front row, third from left, in this photo by Charles Mallison in Paris with other members of the Dakar-Djibouti expedition prior to their departure in 1931. It was on this expedition to West Africa that Griaule first made contact with the Dogon people. But it wasn't until 1946, after Griaule had been involved with the Dogon people for 15 years, that they decided to let him in on their innermost secret teachings. The Dogon elder Ogatamali, shown here, was chosen to teach this secret knowledge to Griaule. The alien Nummo were androgynous beings, but the Dogon identified them with the sacred feminine. They were considered the mothers of the earth and humanity. My research reveals that the secret teachings taught by Ogatamali are the basis of the pagan mystery religion that was thought to have been lost to humanity. The Dogon people were isolated, living high on the cliff of Bandiagara, and while this ancient knowledge only appears in fragments in most other places of the world, it survived with the Dogon people. My research in Day of the Fish reveals that the alien Nummo were the goddesses of old Europe, and that the Dogon religion was the ancient matriarchal religion that formed the basis of the patriarchal religions that followed it. I'm Shannon Dorey, and I've been researching and writing about the Dogon religion since 1999. When you start to understand the significance of this religion and how important it is to human history, you become obsessed with wanting to know everything about the alien Nummo and the truth about their impact on humanity. Because they were alien beings, there is no earthly creature that is identical to the Nummo. Instead, they were described in association with species from Earth. They were aquatic beings, but were amphibians, and Ogatamali described them as fish capable of walking on land. When they were on land, they stood upright on their fishtails. Ogatamali compared them to the Silurus catfish, shown here, because like catfish, the alien Nummo had whiskers on their jaws. When they moved on land, it was in a wave-like formation, which made them look like serpents. So in this way, they became associated with both serpents and fish. Besides serpents and fish, they were identified with lizards, specifically chameleons. And like chameleons, the Nummo were shapeshifters, and they had horns or casques like some chameleons. This is a photo by Kupus of a veiled or Yemen chameleon at the Berlin Zoo. In one passage, Ogatamali described the skull of the Nummo, saying that there was an ear of millet in a long crack protruding from the serpent's skull. And he described the hood worn by the alien Nummo, saying that the Nummo's head fits into the oblong hood in the same way that a stalk of corn fits into its husk. The Nummo were supposed to have had green skin and bulging or sagging necks like the green chameleon. In Day of the Fish, I associate the Nummo with the Ur figurines, dated from 52 to 4200 BCE, and found in southern Iraq at a prehistoric village of the Ubaid culture. The reason I refer to these statues is because they look exactly like Ogatamali's descriptions of the Nummo. Some of these figures have obvious fishtails, such as this one, located at the British Museum and photographed by Zunker. Although she is headless, this serpent fish mother nurses a lizard-headed baby that has a long horn or casque. You can see it better in this close-up image. This photo of two ore figurines from the Penn Museum in Philadelphia and taken by Mary Harsh have lizard-type heads that look more serpent-like than fish-like, but we can associate them with the previous fish-tailed ore figurine. The Nummo were described as having slanted eyes and no ears, but only auditory holes like these ore figurines. The Nummo also had long, wide necks and wide shoulders like these figurines. And you can see that these figurines depict both the horn and the casque, or perhaps a hood covering the horn. They also have little holes under the nose that make them look serpent-like. Circular swellings or bumps which appear on these ore figurines was another strange aspect of the alien Nummo that Ogatamali said protruded from their skin at the elbows, fingers, and wrists. And although most of the bumps on these ore figurines from the British Museum appear on the shoulder areas, there are other ore figurines that show round bumps at the elbows and wrists, just as they appeared on the alien Nummo. All of these ore figurines have these bumps, indicating that these were a significant aspect of these religious figures. Because the Nummo were self-fertilizing hermaphrodites and identified with the divine feminine, the jewelry and ornaments the Dogon women wore recalled the Nummo's appearance. Ogatamali said that all that adorns the spirit of water also belongs to women. Dogon women wore arm bracelets to mimic the shoulder bumps and wore copper rings on the first finger, ring finger, or little finger, because those were the only fingers on the Nummo's webbed hands where circular swellings appeared in the place of joints. The rings the women wore imitated those swellings. This is a wonderful photo of a group of West African women taken by General Francois Edmond Fortier sometime around 1905. And I believe these women are depicting the alien Nummo's hoods, horns, or casques as they were described by Ogatamali. Fortier identified the women as toucouleurs, and according to William Foltz, the toucouleurs are descendants of the Fulani and Serer people, who trace their roots to the Senegal River Valley. Although the majority of toucouleurs were Islamized in the 11th century, some were like the Dogon people in that they clung to their ancient pagan beliefs and resisted the expansion of Islam. These women show necklaces with round bulges which mimic the neck of the Nummo and appeared on the veiled chameleon. They also wear necklaces like the Dogon women wore to represent the wrinkles of the serpent's neck, and a circlet of green bead headbands around their heads that mimicked the Nummo's glittering forehead. The patterned gowns were no doubt mimicking the colorful and varied markings found on chameleons. Dogon women also had tattoos on their bodies, just above their navels and below their breasts, that mimic the lines found on the Nummos. The incisions that created the women's tattoos were described as being in 2 rows of short slanting lines that formed a series of V's without points. If we look at this photo of another of the ore figurines from the British Museum and taken by Zunker, we can see similar lines which also appear on the other ore figurines, suggesting that the lines had religious significance for the people who made them. Dogon women also filed their teeth to a point to mimic the sharp teeth of the Nummo, and they wore a copper ring or a row of beads around their right ankle to replicate the protruding bone that circled the end of the Nummo's tail. This is a photo of a Nysna dwarf chameleon of South Africa by Adventure Lisa. Notice the varied colors, bumps, bulging or sagging throat, the green circlets on the forehead, and the small casque. Although the Nummo had green skin which was covered with short green hair, their skin was said to sometimes shimmer like all the colors of the rainbow. Because of the Nummo's shimmering colored skin, they were known as rainbow serpents. This is a replication of a Dogon drawing of the Nummo as the rainbow serpent by Robert Hill, which I believe is associated with the Australian rainbow serpent, which appears in the rock art at the time of the Yan period, beginning around 6,000 years ago. The rainbow aspect of the alien Nummo is also associated with Maya goddess Ixchel, whose name in hieroglyphics appears as Shakshel, which according to Yucatan today means large rainbow. This image of the goddess from the ceramic codex located at the University of Virginia Art Museum shows her with a lizard-like tail, associating her with the previous chameleon references related to the alien Nummo. A female rainbow lizard with a sun head appears in the Clavis Artis alchemical manuscript, published in Germany in the late 17th or early 18th century. This depiction is important because the Nummo were symbolized by the sun, which was a female symbol in the Dogon religion. According to the Public Domain Review, there are very few copies of the Clavis Artis manuscript still in existence. It is reported to be a translation of Zoroaster, the ancient Persian prophet and founder of the Zoroastrian religion. This image comes from a manuscript found at Rome's Lyncæan Academy. Zoroaster is believed to have lived sometime between 1500 and 500 BC, but this is debated as some classical sources placed him at around 6300 BC. I refer to Urvanism, a branch of the Zoroastrian religion, in my first book, The Master Mistress of Speech, because of the similarities to the Dogon religion. In his research, Joseph Campbell determined that later warring patriarchal cultures reversed the symbols of the earlier pagan religion and turned the sun goddess into a male god. Campbell referred to this moment in history as the birth of the sun god. These later male-dominated societies that Campbell was referring to include the ancient Greeks, Romans, Christians, and Jews. In Africa and parts of Asia, it was Islam that took over the pagan religions. My research reveals that these later patriarchal cultures took the alien Nummo, who were associated with the good and the divine feminine, and turned them into figures of evil. The descriptions of the alien Nummo as being serpent and lizard-like then became associated with the devil. This is a picture of Adam and Eve and the serpent from the Book of Hours, a 15th century manuscript from Bruges, Argonne, Belgium, found in the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library. Book of Hours were Christian devotional books used to pray at the canonical hours, which were fixed times of prayer at regular hours throughout the day. I believe that some Book of Hours may have been used by outlawed sects to practice their pagan beliefs under the nose of the Inquisition. In this image, the devil is a female lizard with legs and tail, which doesn't look the least bit frightening. She appears to provide Adam and Eve with apples. Notice the round bumps running along her entire body. I believe these bumps are associated with the Nummo's bumps referred to earlier. This is another depiction of a similar drawing from a Franco-Flemish Book of Hours of the Duke of Berry by the Limburg brothers. Eve looks pregnant in this image, and the female lizard hands her apples. In this close-up, you can also see the circular bumps along the lizard's body. The Nummo were identified with the divine feminine, and these depictions would certainly suggest this. They were revered by the Dogon people. This picture of Saint Lefard with the leashed green Nummo figure, who has a horn and a long green tail and round circular markings running along her body, is dated 1503 to 1508 from Brittany, France. It is found in the Book of Hours of Anne of Brittany by Jean Berdachon, found in the National Library of France. In this image, the lizard is leashed and starting to turn color like a chameleon. Now it's the male Christian religious leader who wears the Nummo's casque or hood. We see this abuse again in this 15th century painting from North Russia where St. George kills the chameleon with a sword. The chameleon, who has a rope around her neck, like the chameleon in the previous painting with Saint Lefard, is also changing color, probably from fear. Notice the same round bumps along the chameleon's side. We see similar bumps on the back of this figure from ancient Genet-Genot, dated to the 13th century, from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Ancient Genet-Genot was located in the inland Niger Delta region of present-day Mali, in the same general area of Mali where the Dogon people lived. It is the oldest known city in sub-Saharan Africa. My research indicates that the people there practiced the same religion as the Dogon people. This is a side view of the same statue, which I believe symbolizes the Nummo's bumps. The repression of the earlier matriarchal religion throughout the Middle Ages and into the 20th century eventually leads us to not only forget all about the alien Nummo and the sacred feminine, but to witness the total subjugation of women. This picture, taken in 1965 at the Patriarchal Cathedral of Lisbon during the Feast of St. Vincent, says it all. This photo shows the Cardinal Patriarch in full regalia proceeding to the altar. Another male figure behind him also wears the Nummo's cast-like hat with round stones on it, which may have originally been associated with the pagan religion, representing the Nummo's bumps, since serpent-like waves also appear on the hat. The cross around his neck, which looks like a Templar cross, is a Dogon symbol which signified the Seni in the sanctuary. It was the space between the corners of the cross that represented the Seni seed, which had to do with the creation of the universe. I refer to these things in my book, The Rose, on Dogon star knowledge. Several of the other men wear jewelry around their necks, not unlike the West African women's jewelry, which signified the bump and wrinkles of the Nummo's necks. The men also wear floral-length, wide, full-length dresses, similar to what the West African Tukulur women were wearing. Here's the picture of the West African women again to refresh your memory. And now back to the Cardinal Patriarch in full regalia. This picture reminds me of something that Robert Graves wrote when referring to the transition from the ancient matriarchal religion to patriarchy. He said the transition occurred when the king, as the queen's consort, was privileged to act as her deputy in ceremonies and sacrifice, but only if he wore her robes. Eventually, her robes became his robes, and along with it, all the power it entailed. I'm sure there must be a woman in this picture somewhere. Oh, is that one in the very back row? Sadly, the women have all but vanished, and by the time this picture was taken in the 1960s, the alien Nummo had long since fled the earth. There was always the belief, however, that the alien Nummo would one day return to Earth and bring with them the return of the Golden Age, a world without war, hate, pollution, and disease. On my next video, I'd like to focus on how knowledge of the alien Nummo is found throughout the world and dates back to the very beginning of known history. For more information on these things, refer to my books and website, shannondorey.com. Thank you for watching.